So, all right. All right, record on this computer. I think we're live, so.
Okay, we'll begin the Police, Fire, and Health Committee meeting, and we'll begin with our people here are, we have Kara Alt and Chief Jackson and Mayor Tom O'Leary, and Safety Service Director Nikki Ward is here, and Ken Bodkins is on his way, hopefully. So
Yeah.
he'll be on soon. Can I have a approval of last month's minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
And I will go ahead and second that. And then we need an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, and I will second that as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing we have is Chief Jackson is going to talk to us tonight about some grants and the annual report. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. I laugh. Tom ruined my surprise. I was going to talk to you about Jefferson Township, but no, it's something that I've been meaning to get into his office and talk to him more about, but it's been kind of a crazy week. First thing on the agenda is something that we did last year, mid-spring. It's a SAFER grant. SAFER stands for like a staffing of firefighter grant. It's the same kind of FEMA grant family that we talked about when we went for some equipment and some fire safety gear a number of months ago, and council just approved that a little while ago. Well, rarely do you have all these grants come out at the same time. And interestingly enough, this is a 2020 grant. So it tells you how far behind the federal government is on the grant process. This particular one is solely for funding for staffing, not equipment or anything like that. There's about 330 million that they're going to be giving out and about 300 awards. We have hesitated to go for this in the past, mainly because it always came with a requirement to, after that first year, then the city was responsible for an X number of percentage of that employee cost in year 2, and almost all of it in year 3, and then had a requirement to maintain that employee past those years for a number of years at the city's cost at 100%. That has, starting last year, that requirement was waived. So this is a 100% grant to hire, and there is no requirement to maintain after those 3-year period. Now, why I think we are poised and why I present this to you as what I think is the time to move is a number of reasons. Number one, succession planning. The mayor's office and the fire department, or as far as me, we discuss a lot of times about succession planning and how we're going to do it responsibly, so we're not leaving the department without some sort of plan on how they're going to replace those senior employees, including myself. Well, if you look at it, poised to retire within this grant scope, which by time we get to hire, and by time those 3 years come to an end, there's 9 employees out of my 17 that are at retirement age or beyond. So what we're speaking about is hiring 3 to increase our staffing, and we'll talk again about expanding services here in a minute. But it just makes sense that those 3, the requirement to keep them, if anybody had to worry about laying them off in 3 years, the city of Galion would be poised to keep them, because there's more than a fair chance, it's almost guaranteed, we're going to have those openings anyhow, and we would have that experience to be able to use those services for 3 years and then roll them into employment, normal employment, and then hire what we needed to fill us up to whatever our staffing ordinance was at that point. So number one, succession planning is why I think it's a great idea. And again, the cost is 0 to the city. The second part, and Tom alluded to it earlier, was expanding our services. If you've paid attention to Crawford County News at all, you've seen that the joint ambulance district throughout the county is potentially falling apart. Now, I know Bucyrus has already announced their intention to withdraw. Now, you understand what Bucyrus is 90% of the call volume for the rest of the county. So trying to keep a service there to just service the townships is not likely. It just doesn't make good business sense for a private service. So with Bucyrus doing their own EMS starting next year, we have to be poised to be able to deliver services to an expanded area. We've been in contact just recently with a nearby township, inquiring on our interest and what our charges would be to deliver EMS service to that township. It's not the biggest township. It is one that makes sense for us. But with the expanded services, along comes that, we need the personnel. I don't think we want to try to take on other services with existing staffing. It'd be hard in my department. We've maintained the same staffing since I've been there. We've had 17 when I was hired, and we have 17 now, and now we do EMS. So to add another 150 calls, I don't know how that would fit. But if we could add staffing or that expanded service could fund an additional employee, those are things we're really interested in doing. And that's just one township that could leak into a few that surround us. So we just want to make sure that we are at least poising ourselves or positioning ourselves to expand where it makes sense and where we can. Tom, you want to add anything to that?
I just wanted to add that these are a large percentage of the people Bill's talking about actually have a Galleon address. And so I'm going to probably botch it, but I think there are 900 residents in the town, in this neighboring.
Go up there and hit the one that says open.
So it's, excuse me, it's a real natural. I believe there are close to 200 of this folks we're talking about who have Galleon utilities. So there are water, sewer, electric customers in many cases. Maybe they're almost, electric customers. Some are water and sewer, mostly aren't. But the point being that these are people in an adjoining township. It looks like something that we can do going forward in a way that if we are able to get the grant, then it really eases any risk that might be involved in taking on these extra homes again and businesses. So
right.
Anyway,
are there any questions on that grant? Well, money wise, I guess we were looking at, Julie, I sent you that figure. I wrote it down here somewhere. As far as the grant being 200, and you have that in front of you, Julie?
The 249, 221 a year for 3 years.
Yes. Yeah, that for 3 years. So that brings out what, 747 and some change.
Mhm.
That sounds about, yeah. And again, that's 100% federal government money. And I laugh because it's our money sent to the federal government. They're sending back. Yeah, there you go. So 747, 665. And what we did basically is the last year's grant and added expected increases that we've had in contractually and estimated health insurance. I've dealt with April a lot. And this was using a lot of last year's numbers. So we didn't, until you gave us approval, we haven't done 100% of the legwork. So that's going to be the max of what we would be looking for. It could come in cheaper than that, depending on what numbers I get back from the finance offices for April with payroll costs. But I expect, I mean, if you just did a simple calculation on what we did all our homework last year and add 5%, it comes to that. So, and it should be right around that area.
Chief, at the end of that 3 years, then is that just the end of the grant? Can you reapply, or would we be
You
looking?
definitely apply. I've seen departments reapply, and a lot of times you make the argument to get those three. It's an easier argument to keep those three, and it's easier to get funded in the second round. A lot of them do that. But what I'm telling you is, if we decide that we need those three and we can fund those three, and in addition, because we've expanded our territory, it's an easy transition to have, instead of 17, I have 20. If we decide we didn't grab any new territory, the budget's tight, things like that. What I'm saying is, and where we have a benefit over a lot of other communities is the fact that there's going to be 3 openings within those 3 years. So those safer employees would be then, and they're regular hires. I mean, you call them a safer employee because that's how they're originally funded. But once they become, go under that staffing ordinance, the additional people you hire are really the safer employees, or the ones that potentially, may not stay if you don't need their services after 3 years, or you don't hire, 3 more. So we don't have any kind of risk of having to return money or having to utilize any kind of layoff. I mean, again, 9 of our guys, and I can look at the list, there's going to be probably 5 openings, yet we're only hiring 3. But in the meantime, we can utilize their services for 3 years to help expand and really have 3 free employees, and then not have the risk of having like a layoff cost like some communities might.
It really seems like this came at a perfect time for them to remove the restriction that had always kind of held us back from applying for this before. It makes it perfect. It's such, it just kind of came at a perfect time. So can I have a motion to send this on to full council?
Just so that, if I may,
Sure.
Is that 300 nationwide out of this grant, or 300 state?
No, that's nationwide, Tom.
Okay, so
Right, because they put 330 million into it last year they were supposed to dump another 300 to make that double those awards, but they ended up not doing that. So it was about 300 awards last year. But you and I talked. I think they only gave out 200. Must have gave some bigger ones, but this year they're estimating 300 awards for the whole country. But not everybody applies.
right. Well, I think it's a great idea. If we are fortunate to get awarded, it makes it really easier for us to get into the assisting of other townships, if you will, expanding our territory. But I don't want to give the impression that it's going to be, it's a competitive situation.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's not on the agenda, but the issue that was kind of teased at, I think is something we need to look and think about going forward. And that is how we whether we support providing, in this particular case, what we're talking about is just EMS service.
Correct.
The townships we'll end up talking about over the next few years, that they have a very spirited volunteer fire department, and we frankly most often back them up when it comes to fire. What I think we can provide a improvement in service is for these township folks, like I just mentioned, have Galleon addresses. If you didn't know where the township city boundaries were, you would swear they were Galleon residents. And so it's really that group that I think, whether or not we get the SAFER grant, the committee, council, city of Galleon, and the township, it's Jefferson's we're talking about. There's no sense being, it's like an inside secret. No, it's not. Everybody knows we're talking about. And I'm talking about the Beardsley Hayman subdivision, primarily. I'll make one more comment. It's easy to be dramatic about the heart attack out at the driving range or out at Valley View. That kind of helps focus people's attention on what we're talking about. But it is that kind of situation, that part of adjacent Galleon community, that the future of their ambulance service is, in doubt, I'll say. And I'm happy Phil has stepped forward and begun the communication with those township fire officials. There'll be a negotiation involved, but I think it's the best for fire department, city of Galleon, and Polk, and hopefully Jefferson Township. So, all right.
And to add, if you don't mind adding on to what Tom said, a couple of interesting dynamics in that whole thing is is number one, we have an existing customer with Polk. So whatever we decide to do with Jefferson has to be in line with a long-standing customer. So that those are things are always in the back burner, things you're thinking about when you're talking with delivering services to other townships. The second, what I think is the biggest struggle in moving forward and with dealing with people that were in the joint district is the priority that they will put on their fire department, but not on their EMS. And how I say that is once you've done this for a number of years like I have, you've realized that even though we still have Gallion Fire Department on our badges and on our shirts, we do 3/4 EMS. 3/4 of our services that we deliver and our responses are the ambulance services. So if you have a budget of, and I'm using fictional numbers, but if a township has a budget of 150,000 for their fire department, but yet they want to pay 30,000 for EMS coverage, they've got to understand that EMS is, if they have 100 fire calls, they're going to have 300 to 400 EMS calls. It's more. It's really, we're an ambulance service that also does fire now, where it used to be the other way around. And that's just with the area we live, the aging community, delivering our type of service to the community. That's just what it is. And so making them understand that is a really interesting mix. And me being a township trustee, I'm able to talk to them from that side. But it's hard to get through when they've been paying zero for so long for ambulance coverage, and then now they're paying a little bit of subsidy. But to me, it's still not near enough. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Comments? Okay, can I have a motion to move this on to full council then?
I'll make the motion to move it on to full council.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, and then back to you, Chief Jackson. We're moving
Okay.
on to the annual report.
Okay, and I appreciate the time to do this. I'll try to make it fast. I'll highlight a few numbers if you guys have questions on them. It's my opportunity to brag on my department. But Julie, you got the paper?
Can you pull that up for us? Thank you.
All right. So if you want to scroll to the second page, and then we'll talk numbers real quick. Okay, right there, all that is it shows you basically monies that's been collected from not only fire protection, but from our ambulance service in both our billing and the one on the left, column on the left with the star is what we receive from Polk Township every year as a subsidy to cover them in both fire and EMS. And we arrived at that number 5 years ago, and this is our contract year with them. But we arrived at that number by taking the percentage of activity that Polk represents, dividing it by our total annual budget, and it came out to that. And there was an escalating cost, but they opted to pay more in the early years to make it a same payment so they could budget it easier. So really, if you did it by our percentage and our cost, it would have started out at 191, at probably 189, 191, 195. As it grew with our employee costs, they opted to do where it ended up at the number it was. They opted to do 199, 975 equally. So that's how that number got there. The rest is to the column to the right is ambulance service. That's our billing. You can see how we've kind of got on a nice little track there of 330 being what was budgeted. If you asked me in July and I went up and saw the administration and talked to the mayor's office, we were down probably 25 or 30 as it was expected, and the government threw us some money because of that in our EMS billing, just because we went through a period where nobody was going out and going to the hospital due to the pandemic. So that all changed. Now, October, November, and December was probably the 3 busiest months we've had as a fire department ever. And billing reflects that. So where we thought we were going to come in at 300, we ended up coming in at 351. And I'm pretty sure the budget for that income is at 330. So we came in 21 more than we expected, which was a surprise. But we went on the runs to earn that. But so that was a huge surprise, and that came on really right at the end of the year. I wouldn't have. You asked me again in October, I wouldn't have said we would have come in over our income estimate, and we ended up. That's what the number we got. Fire and EMS grants. that's basically, you can see what we brought in on FEMA grants, BWC grant, equipment grants, things that you guys have approved and went through. That shows you annually what we seem to be bringing in, and we do pretty good annually. There's going to be some lean years every once in a while, but we've done pretty well with that. And then our total yearly income, that doesn't count. We don't count income as that 0.39 or 0.5. We don't put those numbers in there because that's levy money that's split amongst various departments as far as police, fire, EMS, and that's not our income. That's what the city income tax is. So that's not reflected in there. So if you'd slide down, Jewel, the next one down is our call volume, and then it kind of gives you some information. Calls were up a bit. And the funny thing is, you look at that EMS billable calls. We had 2 less than the year before, but collected, $20,000 extra. It's just strange how that stuff happens. But sometimes it's based on the types of calls you go on, a billable amount. Of the 1,849 calls we went on, 1,207 were billable. That means other ones were lift assists and go down to the nursing home to start an IV. I mean, things like that take some time, and they're an EMS call, but sometimes you can't send bills for everything. So that reflects that number. Underneath shows you the breakdown of advanced life support calls, advanced 2, which are the real serious ones, and then BLS, which is the basic calls, and how that breaks out from the 1,207 that we sent out. And please jump in with any questions that you have. The billable percentage is always going to be right around there, because as a community, people tend to forget, but we write off anything that the insurance doesn't cover for our residents, and we take basically the taxes they pay as payment in full. So it's a super great thing that we do for our community, but it kind of always goes unmentioned. But all right, Julie, if you want to slide past. Oh, it's sideways. Yeah, that's good. Turn your head, Tammy. Really, the only thing on this breakdown on all of our calls and response times. And you recall, I'm still proud of the fact that Cyrus Telegraph Forum did an article a number of years back, and it wasn't even close on response times from our department to the rest of the county. We do a good job of getting the call from dispatch and getting out the door. I mean, there's always going to be exceptions, but if you look at the bottom of that, slide down, en route to on scene is an important one. So if you look at dispatch to en route, 2 minutes and 8 seconds. That's, obviously we get an overhead whoop whoop, and it tells us whether it's a fire EMS call, depending on the tone. We hear dispatch, they send us somewhere. We get dressed, get on the truck, in the appropriate truck, and get en route. And so that's 2 minutes, 8 seconds on average. And I think that's pretty good time to get out the door. You compare that with what you would think of a volunteer department, and it would be 15, 20 minutes at least. En route to on scene, when we actually mark en route, when we're heading out those doors till we get where we're going, the average is 3 minutes, 50 seconds. That's from next door to PD average to all the way out in the township. These do count township calls. So there is some distance that can be put there. You think about the trailer court. You think about some of the farther reaches of Polk Township. So 350 is a pretty good average, and it maintains about what we did last year. After that, the numbers probably don't mean a whole lot to you as far as on scene to destination. Just tells you, how long we're there, and some calls don't take very much time, but you'll notice the ambulance ones at 12 minutes, 13 minutes, things like that. And that's normal. The on scene average we shoot for is 20 or less to pick you up, give you some services, and get you to the hospital. So the average being 13, 15 there is something we're shooting for. So that's all on that one, Julie. These are just, if you're interested on the types of calls, these are just fire. EMS will be on a couple slides later, but it kind of break down on what types of things we go on. There's building fires, 11. You can slide down, and everyone has its own story. Overpressure is something that blew up. There's field fires are listed there. Obviously, our big one will be vehicle accident with injury. There's a bunch there. You keep sliding. So it's just something, and if you haven't been forwarded this, let me know. I'll be glad to forward this to you. It's interesting stuff to look at. These are the descriptions that we give. You know, it doesn't sometimes prescribed fire, you know, it's something like that, or authorized controlled burning. You know, it doesn't tell the whole story, and we can tell more if you need to know. But again, it gives you a neat view of it. So you can go ahead and slide through those. All right, this one, it just kind of breaks down the hour of the day, and you can see it's pretty consistent throughout the day from 5 in the morning till 11 at night. Then it tends to slow down some in the middle of the night on the fire type calls. It looks like maybe 11 o'clock is about the 11 a.m. is about the time where most things happen. So, but again, just information need to know. So you can keep sliding up. What day of the week is most busy? Looks to be Wednesday. So Wednesday at 11, try to be safe, because that seems to be when everything's coming in. All right, go ahead, Julie. Where those calls come from, you can see the what districts you represent potentially, or if you're at large, all of them. How your district on the fire type calls, you can see Southwest, Southeast tends to have more calls, and that's consistent throughout my tenure there. Polk Township, you'll see 70-something calls there, and out of jurisdiction, which means responding to Crestline, Jefferson Township, mutual aid, those kind of things. Next one you can fly by. I mean, it's just which crew is the most busiest. It's a pride thing, Black Crew. So they get the special star. Then we'll go into some EMS stuff. There's a couple of nice pictures. Again, ALS, BLS. We you know, we had a discussion not too long ago, and maybe it was when I was talking with Jefferson Township. One thing that's kind of unbelievable in our area, that the size of department we have, which is medium size, 17 members, all 17 are advanced life support training paramedics. We don't have any EMTs anymore. Everybody is full professional firefighter certified, as well as paramedic, and we have many instructors, things like that. So we're a well trained 100% advanced life support staff. You'll see, like the Cyrus, and we talked about them taking over Crawford County. They may have, of their 15 members, they may have 5 paramedics. So it's really rare that we have everybody, and it's now kind of something that we pride ourselves on. But that tells you why, because at this year, 500 of the 1,300 calls right there were for advanced life support. So go ahead, Joel. If you're just into gross stuff and want to figure out what we can do on our ambulance calls, that's about the best description we can give. You can look at it. It's kind of funny. You can see, yeah, I mean, you look down through them, and these are descriptions that we give as responders. These don't come as yeah, I can see that. They don't come as from dispatch. These are what we give as the provider impression. When we get there, here's what we think's going on. So it seems like we obviously the COVID stuff was much more than has ever been. But I also note the decrease in drug related responses, which was kind of a interesting number for 2020. So, but you can just slide through those.
Chief, what was the decrease in drugs?
And that I don't, Tammy, I just know from being there day to day, you can see there's some, you're down into the drugs now. We've never been that
less than in the past.
Oh, I think it was quite a bit less, quite honestly. And maybe it's because it was attributed to something else, but you can see right there, if you pause, Julie, cocaine related, inhalant related, and opioid related. And then you can see the other substance related stuff. Those numbers are usually 30s, 40s, 50s. And so they just weren't. And that's not to say they're not out there. I don't mean to act like there's no drugs in our community.
Right.
What I'm saying is we were called for other reasons, or, more. And I don't know how the pandemic plays in that. I noted that just a few days ago that we didn't go through Narcan like we had in the years past. I mean, we were letting it expire as opposed to using it all up before it expires. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe nobody was leaving the house due to the pandemic to go get the drugs they needed, but whatever happened, and I noted that on this year's report. So I hope that trend continues.
And was your total COVID about 18 then, COVID runs?
Oh no, it was quite a bit more. You'll see 10 there, suspected. They're just late. They're listed in different spots.
Okay.
And some of them may not be labeled COVID. They may be labeled respiratory arrest or things like that. So that's a hard one to do because obviously we can't diagnose COVID in the field. So if they call us and I have COVID right there, and you see 10 of them right there, but I saw on the last page a few, you can put it as something, but without being able to test them or a rapid test, which we don't do, you're unable to decipher if that's a COVID call or not. So
I see there's
you won't.
47 respiratory.
Yeah. Usually, I mean, there was a period of time there where every single call on a shift, and I think they went on 12 calls, the dispatch was this person reports they have COVID and can't breathe. So I don't know if it goes in as COVID or some sort of respiratory disorder, and you can see respiratory arrest and COPD with exacerbation. All that stuff could be a COVID, but I don't know at that point. But it was I remember, like I said, the one shift, I think they went on 10 calls and every single one of them was COVID related. Now, most of those were nursing homes, but yeah, there was a lot there. So it's really died down now as well. So. Just on the EMS side, again, where most of our calls at what time they all come in. Again, right around 11 o'clock. That same thing, EMS, 11 o'clock. And it's probably the same as the day of the week. See if it's Wednesday again, Julie. Oh, no, Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday and Friday.
Tuesday and Friday. So take care of yourself on those days. All right. Next is where we went on these calls. The census tract, we call it. So there's your districts listed and which ones we go on. You'll know, I mean, Southwest has nursing home. Yeah, so Polk Township you'll see, or Mutual Aid, 218 on the EMS side. So again, just the shifts, and they're all about even. So like fire calls, but not more EMS calls.
Oh, shifted again. Oh,
Okay.
this is the other way this time.
I got to keep you hopping.
That way we don't hurt our neck. We go one
That's
way.
right.
Stretch this way, stretch that way.
Mhm.
Are you able to shift it, Julie, or no?
Let me see if I can shift it. Which one shifts
This-
it?
As she's working on that, folks, what this is the report I send to Polk. I send them every month so they know, and it's by revised code. They have to know how many calls we went on their township, what we billed, what we received, and what we wrote off. That's by ORC. So we do that, and this is the form I send to them. And so it kind of gives you an idea of the activity that we have for Polk Township, which contracts our service for that $199,975 that you saw earlier. And if you look on the one side, it tells you what percentage of our activity is attributed to Polk Township. And in 2020, it was around 13%. So 13% of our activity was out in the township. So
Doesn't show me how to shift it on this one. So darn it. You can take it down so we can see it a little better, but
you slide down to the beginning or to the other end to the left side, I can at least show. Right there. Yeah, you can kind of see where city calls, township calls, the prior year. And then you can see the kind of the percentage. And so that's what I send them.
There we
Just
can
always
see.
part.
So, sorry about that. It wouldn't show me the
Yeah.
shift. So.
That's all right. The rest is stuff, the information you really already received. If you have interest in how we bill, how much we bill, how much we collect, there's the breakdown for 2019, 2020 on our calls and our charges and our revenues. And that's our billing agency that we hire right there is MediCount. So you can just scroll through those, Julie. If you guys have any questions, you can see the revenues up compared to the year before. Hold there, Julie. Yeah, right there. It kind of gives you a neat breakdown of Medicare, Medicaid, insurance, what patients pay privately, things like that. So that you're on adjustment detail. This is what we write off. And you notice we write off quite a bit more than we collect. And that's just normal for an ambulance service. Even in, if you just go up one more page, Julie.
Oh, up
Even,
or
yeah.
down?
well, whatever the previous page.
Oh, the previous page. Okay, hold
Yeah,
on.
with collections. And that tells you how we charge and how we get paid. And you can see it, the commercial insurance facility, which would be in some sort of nursing home, Medicaid, Medicare.
Okay.
That's where our funds come from. Yeah, I mean, it's simple as that. Again, we write off a lot, and but a lot of that is just collectible debt. I mean, your insurance only will pay so much for an ambulance call. So, okay, thank you. Any questions on that kind of thing?
I just
I know.
want to make, if I could, on the writing off, who is it written off for? It is the underwriting of the department by the income tax that allows us to do that.
Right.
So we, as Phil said, covered so much territory. There are only 2 points I want to go back on. One is this one right here, where if you don't have insurance, if this would be somebody non-Medicare, non-Medicaid, so think of a younger person without insurance, we're writing that ambulance call off. So that's one category of sort of, if you will, uncollectibles. It's not, it's just, that's the bargain. I think that's a good thing that we do for people who don't have the ability to pay for transport. The other part is the difference between what it costs us and what Medicare or these other insurances pay. So it is how your income tax goes to offsetting the cost of that EMS service. Other thing I wanted to say real quick, and Phil was probably more modest than I would be about it. It is the exception and not the rule that the person that shows up at your house or your mom and dad's house or whoever needs the ambulance run to have advanced paramedics there. That's pretty cool for a city our size. And so, the challenge will be, as he said, as people retire out, we're going to have to look real hard and insist on hiring people in the future that either possess that advanced paramedic or, show the potential to earn that. So it's pretty out of the ordinary that you have that highly trained set of advanced paramedics. So he didn't drive it home and pound on it too much, but doggone it, I'm going to, because it's rare for a town our size to have that. So thanks for letting me make those comments.
Thanks, Tom. Outside of that, I don't know what's next, Joe. I think that's it.
Oh, it is the.
It is.
Thank you. I think our city has a lot to be proud of.
It is.
And I think you do a really good job. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come to our meetings and go over all this with us, because it's nice to see. And I think it's good that you have an opportunity to share that with us and also brag a little bit about the hardworking people that you have up there. I think that's wonderful. So
Well, I really actually enjoy coming once a year to get that out. And the one thing I want to make sure that's hammered home is the fact that this doesn't happen overnight. This has been our success and has been from the willingness from council to take a chance many years ago on bringing EMS in. And trust me, that is not the glamorous part of the job, as you can imagine, going into some people's homes and delivering that EMS service. But we understood a long time ago, the city did, that it was a necessary service we must deliver. So we eliminated turnover. You eliminated all the things that Crawford County has went through the past 5 years. We eliminated a long time ago. And we get calls daily on how do you guys do this? And we're proud about that. And, that goes out to the mayor's office, Nikki, council for approving stuff, us trying to go for grants. And that has just steamrolled. So I know there's been a lot of negative in the community lately, but I'm proud to work there, and I'm tickled that we can offer the service and deliver the service that makes people proud. So I'm happy about that. So I just wanted to make that update.
What a refreshing meeting this has been. Thank you very, very much. It's been great.
This is always one of my favorites to sit through and hear.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
It's canceled, but I'm glad to be here tonight. So,
Okay, do we have any other business? Okay, all righty then. Our next meeting will be March 18th. And I will need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All righty, meeting adjourned at 7:45.
7:45.
One more thing.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you very much for the job you do. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
You guys make it easy. You guys make it really easy.
You make it easy on us.
yeah, that's true.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Nice.